Okay, today I'm going to show you how to use files on the Teach Me to Color group with PicMonkey. Okay, at the top of the web page, underneath the cover photo, you'll see discussion, members, events, photos, and files. You want to go right here where it says files. This is our video links. I'm just going to go ahead and open this so you can kind of see. This is going to show you where all your tutorial videos are. These are all the ones for PicMonkey. We've got some that I've done on Photoshop, some for Photoshop Elements, GIMP. There's some tips for Windows 10 users, Portrait Professional, and then there's some that Beth has used here, or done here on Photoshop. And then there's a link here to help you kind of improve photos before you start coloring. But I'm going to go back. We used to post a lot of photos here, and every now and then I still do because this is where your more high quality photos are going to be. So I'm actually going to go down all the way to the bottom and pick one of the very first photos that we've done. And it says black and white picture, and I'm just going to click that. And I can preview it, and it'll show me what this image looks like. And if I want to get this image, then I'm just going to push download. Now that it's downloaded, I'll close that. Now I can go back to Teach Me to Color. Okay, now we're going to use this image in PicMonkey. There's two ways to do it, so let me show you both ways. If you use PicMonkey through Facebook, you're going to go like up here, and you're going to type PicMonkey. And you'll see there's two. There's one that's an app page, and this is actually an app. So you want to click this one. And you'll see my recent photos. But if you go here where it says upload a photo or drag it here, you can click here and it'll ask you where that photo is. When you download a photo, it's always going to be in your downloads folder. So if you go here, you'll see that picture. You can click it and push open. And it'll open it with PicMonkey. If you use PicMonkey through your browser, you open a new tab and show you how to do it that way. And there's not much difference. The only difference through your browser, if you use it standalone like this, is that you will have to have an account, which is like $5 a month or $35 a year or something to that effect. But it has the same features as the one through Facebook, and Facebook is free. I only come over here and use it because I actually have an account. You're going to go to TouchUp, and then you'll go through here to pick one of the areas you want to pull from. So you'll click Computer, and as you can see, it automatically opened my downloads folder. But that's where you would find it. You'd pick your photo and push open. All right, we're going to get started here, and I'm going to just show you some different ways to do some different things. Okay, we could basically just start coloring out. Over here on the right, down here where you see this arrow and it says 64%, I can actually increase, and this helps get those edges and get in real close to like do things like eyes and lips and details. Or I can leave it here. I kind of like to leave it about in the middle. Just don't forget to color those edges. So now that we've got that open, we can go down to highlights, and we're going to pick a color to do this scarf area. And you can just click on any color. Let's do it like, I'm going to do it a red just so you can see it right now. And this is going to be your brush size right here. As you scroll, it'll show you how big this brush is. I want it about there. And this is your fade. And I'm going to take the fade all the way up. And then you're just going to click and start coloring. If you use a Wacom tablet, you'll use your pen. And you'll just start coloring in these areas. And I chose the red because it's easier to see. I probably won't keep it that color. I don't really prefer it that color. I don't think it gives as good of a picture with this color. And I need to take my brush size back down so I can get in these small little areas. And let's say I made a mistake, like drew across her face there, I would click the eraser here, and I would just come in, and I usually get it a little bit bigger when I'm using the eraser because it just takes one swipe, and I would just erase that off. But if I wanted to play, see a little area I've missed here. If I wanted to play with the color some to see which one I like best, I would go and I could just move the color dot here and kind of look to see which colors I preferred. And there's also a slide bar here that allows you to move those down as well. So you can adjust the hint or the hue of the actual color you're using to make it darker or brighter. And I kind of like this. Okay, when you get done, you're going to push apply, and that's going to set that color. And then you would go in with your next color. And I see like some little details in here, and I could go in and I could do all these little details, a different shade or a different color. Just to kind of give you an idea. And it just helps to kind of give it a little more dimension so everything's not one-toned. Or you could get real creative and go in and do several colors in here. Just depends on really what you want to do. It's all up to your artistic interpretation as to how you want to do these things. But what I'm doing is just touching those light areas with a different shade to kind of help bring them out some. And I'm going to push, I'm actually going to pull that fade up some. Change the hue a little bit darker and push apply. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit lighter blue, take my brush size down just a hair, and I'm going to touch these frayed areas. And just kind of helps bring those out a little bit. I'm going to push apply. Okay, the next thing we're going to focus on is going to be her hair. If you look up here, you have little pictures of hair. There's a darker brown, a lighter brown, a blonde, and a black. You could even do some red. If you pull it over a little bit in the dark brown, you can even get like a redder shade. And I think that's kind of what I want to do. It's a little bit of a brownish red. Now I'm just going to start coloring these in. And I'm getting way over here. And like I said, this is just going to be a quick little tutorial. So I'm not going to go in and clean up all these edges, but I normally would, or I'd make my brush a little smaller and take a little more time doing this. I just didn't want to have to make y'all watch this video for 45 minutes to kind of see what I was doing. I'm going to take my brush size down here because it will matter. Clean that up a little bit. Alright, and so I've got her hair done. I could even fade it down some. I kind of like it somewhere right there in the middle. And push apply. And then I'm actually going to go in and add a few highlights. So make my brush a little smaller because I don't want my highlights real thick. But these lighter areas, you can see she's got some highlighted tones in her hair. And we're just going to kind of touch those and kind of bring those colors out some. And then we can fade that down a little bit too so that it kind of blends a little better. And push apply. And as you can see, you're starting to get a really good picture here. But now I'm going to zoom in because I'm going to focus on her face. There are two ways that you can do your facial color. I'm going to show you one way to do it that's a little bit different that it was shown to me. And I like the way that it looks. It will not always work though. So first thing we're going to do is take the eyebrow pencil and click this orange here, which you could click a different shade, but that's going to give you a different skin tone. And we're going to take our brush size up some, and we're just going to start coloring in. Make my brush a little bit bigger. Make sure you get close to her lips, or you're going to have a white gap right where those lips are. That was something I had a lot of trouble with when I first started. I tried so hard to get just around the lips, just perfect. And the honest to God truth is once you you get on those lips, it'll be okay because the colors will blend, and you can even edit it some. Okay. And then we can take the color, now that we've got that done, we can take it and kind of fade it down. Or you can even leave it a little brighter. And push apply. And there's two ways, like I said, to do this. You can push the blush boost and leave it here, or even put it here and start going over it. And you'll see it starts lightening her skin and giving her a more realistic skin tone. But you see, like when I get in these dark areas, it creates almost a haze. And it's going to do that when you get in those dark areas. See, like around her eyebrows and stuff. Because what that blush is doing is it actually sits on top. It does give a good skin color, but it actually sits on top. So there's always another option up here. You can go up and go to spray tan. And go to one of these. And it doesn't sit on top. It actually sits right on the skin. And you can change the intensity and the darkness there. Like I pulled the intensity down so it doesn't look so red. And I'm just going to start coloring this in. She still looks a little too red to me. But I could darken it, lighten it to give her a different skin tone. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do her eyebrows. And some people do them, some just leave it the skin color. But depending on how you do your skin color, they might come out a weird color. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go down. And I'm going to take this fade down and I'm going to use a really, really, really small brush. And I'm just going to start going in and touching on this. Let me pull my face up. You could also use the eyebrow tool to do this. Push apply. I'm actually going to go up here and do this eyebrow pencil. And it seems to color a little bit better. I should have been a little more careful about the skin tone and it wouldn't look as red. But if, for example, like this is really red, I can actually go and take that out. I can go over here where this wand is, push effects, go to where it says black and white. See where this little brush is right here? I'm going to push it, and I'm going to push reverse effect. I'm going to take my brush size down, and I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to push apply. And then I can go back and paint it again. And that keeps you from having to redo an entire picture just because one thing doesn't look right. So now I'm going to push apply, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do her lips. Everybody does their lips a little bit different. You can use the lipstick tool, which is good. I use it for other things. You can go here and actually pick a color and do this whole picture with that if you so choose. You just need to take your hardness down here. Cancel. You can choose one of these here. If you push these other pictures, you'll get different colors. And you can just come in and paint that on. And you can take your tone down, the intensity, so that it kind of blends, however you want to do it. And push apply. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is her eyes. So let me zoom in on her eyes. Okay, they've got an eye color tool. I very rarely ever use the eye color tool. I have a hard time getting the tints just right because you can't darken or lighten as you want. A lot of times I use the lip tint tool. And if I wanted to do, say I wanted to do like a hazel with some brown and some greens, what I would do is take this, put it on the orange, take the hardness all the way down, take my brush size down, and I would just come in and I would do around the center where it's darker, like this. I'm actually going to pull it off of that iris. And then I can take that tone down or up to lighten it. And I can even take the intensity out a little bit. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to pick a green. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it down. Take my brush size down. And I'm going to just start painting this in. It looks really bright. Don't let that scare you. Makes it a lot easier to see too, so it's not as big of a deal as you would think. And I'm going to go ahead and get this off here. I have a whole tutorial on doing eyes, so I'm not going to touch on that a whole lot. And then I can take this intensity or this tone down and even the intensity some. I'm actually going to touch over the wrong thing. Touch over that with that green so that it kind of blends. So it's not as dominant as you think. Oh, got me a spot there. And then I could even apply this, go in and do the brown again. Make my brush even smaller and come around and do this edge here. That's really a lot bigger than I expected it to be. But I can clean that up. Okay, and then I can take the tone down quite a bit. Take the intensity. I want the intensity up because I want you to be able to see some of that color. And I can just go in and clean the edges up because I really got my brush too big. And do it about like that. And push apply. I'm going to use the same thing to do this waterline here on both of her eyes. I do kind of a pink. I'm going to take the hardness down, take my brush size way down, maybe about there, yeah. And then I'm just going to touch. And I'm going to do the same thing here because this little spot in between your eye, if you go look in the mirror, it's going to be like that on you as well. And then I'm going to take the intensity way down. Just where you can barely see that pink. I'm going to push apply. And do the same thing with the lip tint on the red. And this is just something that I started doing because I like the way it came out. It kind of gave more of a realistic look to me. But just a touch of red in these corners. And I'm going to take the tone way down and even the intensity, just barely. Barely there. I like that. Alright, and let's zoom out. And I may have got a little over with the red. I probably shouldn't have pulled it that far in. If that's the case, you could always take it off and do it again. I'll take my hardness down. And it's partially because it's so dark in this one corner that it looks so heavy. And that's better. There. Alright, and we can zoom out. And then we're going to go in and we're going to do a little bit of blush. So we're going to go up to the blush boost tool. And I kind of like this one because to me it just gives a more natural shade. And what I like to do is I like to get my brush about the size of her cheeks. And then I can kind of fade it down a little bit and it gets a real natural shade. And I'm going to go ahead and push apply. And I still got, and I do this all the time. If you happen to do this, it can be a pain to try to get that color matched. And that's just one of the things with that. So you want to make sure you scroll down. I'm bad about doing that too. But for this purpose, we're going to just cut that off. Wouldn't normally suggest it, but in this instance, because I don't want to have to go back and redo it or recolor the whole thing. So I'm just going to cut that there. And then I'm going to color this little edge up here a different color. So I'm going to go down to highlights. Give it kind of a turquoise color. Or maybe even a green. Let's turn that to green. Like that. And push apply. And then you can do a few things. The wonderful thing is they've got a mascara tool. And you want to take your brush size up on it. And you can go over this entire photo. And it's really going to help it look more like a 3D. It's going to pull those edges out. And really just give it a really good finished look. And you can play with the strength there too. You'll notice the strength. You can turn it up and turn it down. And then I want to touch on the effects. You can go to the effects. And this effect here is Orton. And you can fade it. You can give it a more darker look. You can give it a lighter look. You can even change the bloom up or down. And it just kind of gives it a little more finished look. But whatever looks good to you. There is no wrong way to color. It's all about the artist's view on things. As long as you get the main points and you get everything colored and it's all the same saturation, it'll really turn out well. And you don't have to use the Orton. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite features of PicMonkey. But it's not necessarily one of those things that you have to do. So you push apply. You can go up to push save, and you would save to this computer. Push save to my computer, and it's going to ask you where you want to save. Personally, I keep a folder of photos that I do that's separate from the ones that I download because they will overwrite the ones you download. And if you color for other people, you need to retain the original. And this is how you get started with PicMonkey using files and coloring photos. Thank you very much.